Hi, Lori. How are you doing today? Did you have a good day? I had a strange day today. I managed to somehow sprain my ankle in my sleep last night. Hi, Kristen. I woke up about 3 hours after falling asleep in horrible pain, like unbearable pain in my foot and ankle. And I've only sprained my ankle one other time in my life like that. Oh, headache. And it was super, super painful. But so it's a little better now. I'm not in that excruciating pain that I was in the night. That kind of faded out, but it's still really quite uncomfortable. So I haven't dealt with any extreme pain like that in a long time. And it seems so ridiculous to have somehow injured myself in my sleep. So I'm not sure what I did, but that kind of sustained pain is quite different than a lot of the other types of pain I've experienced in recent history. And then, I'm not prone to ankle sprains. That's the weird thing. Like, I have other weaknesses, but my ankles generally have been very sturdy, and literally I can only remember like one other time that I've sprained my ankle, and it was like 25 years ago because my son was little at the time. My oldest son was a 1 or 2 year old. Then also today, within the space of about a half an hour, I found out that 3 different people who I am not close to, but who are in my world, you know, in completely different ways, died. And they're all in their early 50s. And so that was very strange also. And of course, you know, when you have really bad pain happening, you're kind of like, it sort of takes you down the mortality path of like, is this something really bad that's gonna kill me? Especially with COVID as a backdrop to everything. You know, could I have COVID and it's causing me this problem in my ankle? I mean, my brain went through a lot of different thoughts, and because of practicing mindfulness, you know, I can separate myself from the thoughts enough to be able to recognize that I'm going through like a natural sort of process of, you know, what happens when you're in pain. And then thinking about the different people who died, that just added to the whole kind of strangeness and scariness, I guess. Hi, Lori. So those things are rattling around in my mind for tonight. And I also learned today that, because I've been talking about seated meditation versus laying down on your back, and I learned that the ancient Greeks, hi Melissa, the ancient Greeks did something called incubation, which is a form of meditation, I guess, where they would lay on their backs, or they would lay down to do the meditation, and they would have healers come, and I guess they would lay for hours. And so that's something interesting, because I think there's some other, you know, like Buddhist practices too, where people lay on their backs, but traditional Buddhist practices. Lori, I once slowly sprained a knee stretching in a yoga class at my gym. I was bouncing too much, trying to stretch further. Too fast, yeah. Yeah, it's weird. I think, Rosie sleeps at the foot of our bed, and I think my foot must have gotten tangled up in the sheets or something. And anyway, it's getting better. But, so I guess just to say one more thing about these deaths that occurred, and that is that in the wake of one of them, who was somebody that I babysat for actually when I was a kid, and I actually broke my collarbone babysitting for him one time. But there was just like this really beautiful outpouring of kindness and loving stuff about this person. And I didn't really know him as an adult, but it sounds like he was a pretty great guy. And then in the wake of the other person's death, he died of a drug overdose. And he had been more of a problem for people in some ways. And there was just a lot of kind of commentary that was kind of ugly. And I mean, maybe not a lot, but there was some. And so I watched how this was within an internet community, this person. And so I kind of was watching these two situations and how they unfolded. And I just thought it was really sad to see some people reacting the way they did. So anyway, I guess the bottom line is that kindness is important. It really matters a lot, and I'm reminded of that all the time. So come into your meditation, your place where you're going to be tonight, on your back or in a seated position if that's what you're choosing. So make your way there and bring yourself into the most comfortable iteration of that position that you can find. So if you're on your back, the usual, maybe a pillow underneath your legs to support your lower back, maybe a pillow under the head, maybe a covering for your eyes. Maybe you're laying on something soft or you have a blanket over you. And if you're coming to your seat, you might sit up on a cushion or find a place where you can let your spine be upright and comfortable and not too stiff. Maybe with a little bit of, you're in your seat with a little bit of ability to move and shift position so that you can remain comfortable during this meditation. If you're on your back, you probably won't move quite as much, although there might be some movement. So finding your way to your position and to greater stillness in your body and into an opportunity to observe yourself in these next 15 or so minutes. So wherever you are, see if you can close your eyes, or if that's not comfortable for you, finding a soft gaze. And you might just start by observing your reaction to the things that I just talked about, which were pretty difficult subject matter: pain and death, suffering, basically. So I'm just noticing what that brought up for you. It's just an opportunity to observe your own reactions and notice how it affects the thoughts that arise and also the bodily sensations that you might feel. Bringing yourself into the awareness of your breath, into the consciousness of your breath. Allowing your body, if you're lying on the floor, to be completely surrendered to gravity, very relaxed. And beginning to feel your inhale and your exhale more completely. You might be able to feel as the air starts to come into your nose and come down into your lungs. You might be able to have an experience of that so that you feel the beginning of the inhale, the middle of it, and the end of it. And then as you exhale, same thing. You might be able to have a more complete experience of the exhale, which might include that small pause before the next breath comes in. And just noticing how this awareness of the breath and focus on the breath can also help to change your experience here on your back, in your body, and also in your mind. As you begin to deepen your breath a bit and be more aware of it, and your breath is more complete, you'll begin to notice probably that your heart rate is coming to a more stable resting heart rate. If you can feel your heart beating in your chest, you'll begin to feel more kind of sensitively and delicately the feelings in your chest and belly as the breath comes in and out. And you might be able to notice the thoughts that come up without as much attachment or identification with those thoughts. So there's a little bit of space as you lay here to be observant of your thoughts and your bodily sensations. So having an acute injury like I did in the night, which seems kind of ridiculous because I was sleeping, but is an opportunity really to notice how the brain wants to identify with the sensations and create reasons and scenarios for why they're occurring, and perhaps to put even like labels on the sensation that may or may not be true, and possibly to even go down some further path into the future where terrible things happen as a result of the injury, or, so there's like a whole bunch of things there that could possibly happen. And this is one of the reasons that I meditate and practice yoga, is so that I can separate myself from overly identifying with some of those thoughts and sensations, and realize them as more transitive or, passing. So, there's some saying like pain is, you're always going to have pain, but suffering is optional, or something like that. And that can sound a little, I don't know, Pollyanna-ish or something. Like, as human beings, we are contending with suffering a lot. And that doesn't mean we're not spiritually advanced, or, it's part of our dukkha, suffering. It's part of our experience as human beings. But we can begin to understand, like, where it comes from. And through these practices, through having a practice, we can begin to experience some relief from suffering. I guess we say sometimes we are not our thoughts, we're not our body, So just breathing and experiencing now this sense of relaxation that has come over you. You might take a couple of deep breaths just to like kind of, if you're feeling still any like resistance or discomfort, you could take a couple of deeper like sighs like that. And rewatching some of my these videos that I do, I've noticed that I naturally do some sighing in the middle of these meditations. So just maybe taking a couple of deeper breaths with longer exhales. And just continuing to observe your breath. Not in a way where you feel like you have to stay on it like it's a task, and if you don't keep noticing your breath, you're not doing the meditation right. Not like that. Just experiencing it, experiencing the sensation of the breath, almost like it's waves coming in. And you're just laying by the side of the ocean and you're observing them. And it's very... brings you a sense of contentment to observe these waves of breath. It brings you more fully into the present moment. And you might even be able to hear your breath a little bit. Almost like if you had a seashell up to your ear and you could hear the ocean. Just a gentle sound of the waves rolling in and rolling back out. Noticing if there's anywhere in your body where you're resisting or feeling tension in any kind of way that is uncomfortable, like perhaps a feeling of like a knot or some kind of discomfort or holding pattern of some sort with your muscles. And see if you can just kind of, as the waves come in, you can kind of let that erode and soften and dissipate. So one of the useful things about our meditation practice is that it can help us to not just to notice our thoughts and our bodily sensations, but also to to notice when we're overly identifying with them. It can be really useful to label things. Labeling things is actually a meditative practice where you can label your thoughts and your sensations, and it's a good practice to do. But labeling can also become something where we're really gluing ourselves to whatever the label is, to the point where it's hard to let it go. I mean, I'm sure that something could pop right into your mind, like, I am an anxious person. I am a person who has depression. I am, lots of possibilities. And some of those things may be true for you, and it may be very liberating to give yourself that label at some point in time, because it helps you to understand what's going on, and it helps you to get some support and some relief and, possibly treatment or medication or lots of good things about that. But also, sometimes those labels that we stick on ourselves we can outgrow them. They can be useful for a while, but we can get underneath them and start to heal or change those things to the point where we don't need them anymore. So just noticing what that brings up for you. today my questions were things like, am I a person who's going to have ankle problems for the rest of my life? Am I a person with ankle instability? Am I a person who's going to have chronic pain in my ankle? Do I have bad feet? I mean, literally, these things are rolling up into my consciousness, like, and the answer is no, I'm a person who injured myself and I'm going to heal, and eventually I will feel better, and then I can work on strengthening it and making it better, and it will go away. So just noticing your own habits and tendencies in this regard. And if this conversation has brought up any like tension or anything for you, just kind of let it go now, just kind of release it. Notice if it brings anything up in your own body or any frantic thoughts about what it might be for you or what it means. And just bring your attention back to the breath, back to that wave-like sensation of your breath coming and going. And with those waves, feeling the softening in your body and the surrender and the sense of contentment that comes with the breath, with this kind of observation of the breath. And then just in these last few moments here on your back, continuing to observe the breath, noticing once again if there's any resistance. See if you can really relax the eyes, letting your eyes be heavy and soft, and the jaw as well. Again, letting your lower jaw be slightly released from the upper jaw. And it's with this that you're going to come back into your evening with this relaxed body and this awareness of the breath and this sense of contentment. So if you're going to come back up to your seat, you could roll onto your side and bring yourself back and find your long spine. And you might take a couple of those sighing breaths if you're back upright. So inhaling. You can exhale through the nose or even through the mouth. Just letting it go. And then bringing your breath back to a balanced, comfortable, relaxed, natural breath. And then you could bring your hands together at your heart, and you could bow your head to your own practice, to your own inner teacher, your higher self, or your higher power. Namaste. Thank you so much for joining, and I'll be here tomorrow night at 9 p.m.